And we're back with more on News Talk Saga 960. So very glad you could join us on this edition of the Mark Patroner Show. Well, it certainly is a tangled web of money, the Trudeau Foundation, the Chinese billionaires, the Chinese Communist Party, from which some of this money comes, Alexander Trudeau, who's Justin's brother. You put it all together, and it's kind of hard to figure out where the money went, to whom it went, where it ended up. Either way, maybe we need to call Trudeau's brother. I mean, we heard from Katie Telford, who didn't have a whole lot to say about China collusion, but maybe we need to find out more about the Trudeau Foundation, although the NDP has already put the kibosh on all of that. But that hasn't stopped Andy Lee, because Andy is on it like white on rice, like a fat kid on a Smartie. And she's and so what's the latest, Andy?
Yeah, well, it's really interesting how this is developing. There's not a lot of mainstream media press about this, but there is a lot in a French media press. So I went back to some of the earliest story, and the earliest story I could find about this donation was actually from the University of Montreal. It was a press release, and it said that Guy Lefebvre, who is he was the vice president of the university at the time. He was the one that negotiated this controversial donation, this $1 million donation to the university. But there was no mention of the Trudeau Foundation in this article. It looked like, the donation was intended for the university. And that's not entirely surprising because the same donors that Zhang Bin and New Genshing also donated through their foundation, which we know is now linked to an entity called Millennium Golden Eagle, which is, directly associated with the Chinese Communist Party. They did donate as well to the University of Toronto. But we don't really know how the Trudeau Foundation got to be involved. And it's very, very sketchy. And so we've been really, really pressing the university. And like I said, there's not a lot of people doing that. We're doing it. And some people are doing it in French press and Quebec press as well. But according to the Montreal statement that was obtained by Le Devoir, it was the Trudeau Foundation that reached out to the university to become involved, not vice versa. So it's really, really confusing, and it's hard to sort out. And we're trying to pin them down and get a statement because they keep contradicting themselves as well. On that first story, there was kind of like a bonkers line, and the University of Montreal put out a story saying that they had a student who happened to know this Chinese billionaire. His parents did. And then the student organized the donation. But now they're saying, no, that's not right. Guy Lefebvre reached out to organize the donation. But again, we don't know at what point the Trudeau Foundation got involved. We know that they were involved in 2014 because there's photos of Alexandre Trudeau in 2014 during those negotiations that were taking place. But it's very, very unclear how they came to be involved. And it's looking, and the story that came out was basically that the Chinese donors were sort of grooming the Trudeaus, and trying to curry favor through making this donation. But it's really, really unclear who approached who. There's some sides that say that, the Chinese businessmen didn't approach the Trudeau Foundation, but then there's some sides that say that they did approach the Trudeau Foundation. And then some people are saying that the Trudeau Foundation reached out to them to try to get a cut of this money for their foundation. So it's really a mess right now. And we're trying to sort it out. And we keep pressing the university because, like I said, the earliest story says that it was Guy Lefebvre that did this negotiation. So, I mean, he should know one way or another. He did something strange, though, because in 2013, he was very, very involved in China and furthering, collaboration between universities in China. He actually had like a center in Beijing, a Sino Center, that was established that he ran in 2013. But Guy did something very, very weird. This is the guy who ran the University of Montreal and the law faculty there. He scrubbed his resume of all of that in the last couple of days. Since we've reached out to him. So we're going to continue to press him on that. I'm not sure why he would go and, blow his bio up and remove all of that work that he's done if he was very proud of it and sure that it wasn't linked to anything maybe that wasn't above board or nefarious. So yeah, and then there's so much going on here in Canadian politics. Who knew it was this wild? So yeah, so this was following up on Sam Cooper's story. So Sam Cooper put out that Vincent K was apparently, influenced by the Chinese Communist Party. Perhaps the story goes he was accepting money and helping to sort of distribute funds from the PRC to these candidates, particularly in the GTA. So anyway, so this is Vincent Key with, Consul General Han Tao and Wang Guaning and Wei Chengyi, who have both been flagged by CSIS, as potential, actors who are acting on behalf of the Chinese Communist Party. They run a lot of associations. So this is Vincent Key at one of these meetings. And he basically thanks, these members for helping him win the election in 2019, which does corroborate, what Sam Cooper was saying. And Sam got a lot of backlash over that story, but it appears that there is at least some element of truth, and that, he did go and thank Chinese Communist members in person for, their assistance in rallying. A lot of this goes back to an area in China. It's a province in China. And a lot of these police stations and things like that are being tracked down to the specific province in China. So he thanks people from that area in China for helping him to win his provincial election. So, it doesn't get more cut and dried than this, that there is definitely a degree of interference going on. But, we've seen the RCMP saying that they're not investigating it. So it's like, if
Yeah,
you're
why not? Why aren't they?
Well, like you said, it's all kind of there in black and white if you look for it. And it's certainly their job to investigate things like this and find out, again, is this sort of thing illegal? Is it proof of wrongdoing? No, it's not. But it does definitely say that, we haven't approached, protecting our elections in the way that we should have. There's a lot of these, like I said, there's a lot of these associations. A lot of them are cultural associations and things like that. And they are, have, strong ties to PRC officials. And they do, preach to vote for certain candidates and things like that. And these are the sort of things that probably could be subjected to a foreign agent registry. They're sort of like third-party voting machines. And, like I said, when you have that sort of influence, is it illegal right now? No, but, maybe these people should have to register if they're lobbying, especially if they're lobbying on behalf of, consul generals of the PRC, their preferred candidates. That's pretty serious stuff.
Yeah, well, Trudeau says that would be racist, though, to have a registry. We can't, can't have that. But
right? Teresa today, what did even capitalism is racist, right?
Yeah. Okay. So here's the bloc now raising the issue, applying pressure on Trudeau's relationship with China. Let's listen.
Short answer, Mr. Speaker, there is reality and then there's the perception of reality. The Trudeau Foundation has received money from Chinese donors. Reality. The Prime Minister went on holiday to the home of major donors to the Trudeau Foundation. Reality. Morris Rosenberg, commissioned by the Prime Minister to assess foreign interference in the elections, was CEO of the Trudeau Foundation. That's also a fact. David Johnson, the Prime Minister's Special Rapporteur on Chinese interference, is a member of the Trudeau Foundation. That's a fact. What is there to think except that the Chinese government is using the Trudeau Foundation to influence the Prime Minister, and that it is working? The Honourable Leader
Can't wait for
of
the
Government and
response.
House. It is clear for every member here, on this side and the other side, we are all very much committed to Canada. Foreign interference, Chinese interference or other.
Yeah, they're all committed to ongoing interference by the Chinese. Why would they want to stop it, though? They're the beneficiaries of it. So, but you definitely know that the Chinese don't want a registry. Do you know why? You know that for sure because Justin Trudeau objects to it. So he keeps talking about, well, no, we don't want to upset anybody about the possibility of setting up a foreign registry because Lord knows the Chinese don't like it. I mean, it's bizarre. What did you make of the trip to Jamaica? $160,000 worth to a very, very rich friend of his. Taxpayers got dinged with a massive bill. I mean, could he have spent $160,000 worth of ganja over there? I mean, he would have got high. Wow. I mean, I heard the marijuana, the pot is pretty good in Jamaica. I don't know, but 100. But if you're buying weed for yourself and all your security entourage, that's a lot of weed. So you got to figure you're getting you're hiring the very best of the growers. I don't. 160. There's a lot. It's a lot of.
Yeah, I don't partake, so I'm not sure how much it would take to get a crew like that going. But yeah, I mean, I just think fool me once, shame on you. Fool me dozens of times, shame on us, right? I mean, we shouldn't really be surprised that this is coming out. That he stayed at somebody who donated to the Trudeau Foundation. Obviously, it was a luxury villa. These things cost probably $10,000 a night. So that goes back into his friends' pockets for them to continue donating to his cause, right? I mean, I'm not sure. Like I said, I'm not necessarily shocked. I don't think that there's anything anymore that can shock me. I'm at that point where I'm just like, I'm not surprised by anything that he does anymore. And he's weaseling away from this somehow. And the Bloc, they talk a good game, and Ms. Blanchard has put out lots of press releases and things like that. But I mean, the Bloc did vote with the NDPs and the Liberals to shut down an investigation into the Trudeau Foundation, right? So, I mean, how badly do you really want to get to the bottom of this? Not that badly. That's the message that I got from the Bloc, because they did vote with the Liberals and the NDP. If they really wanted to get to the bottom with it, they wouldn't have voted that way, right? So, I mean, it's really, really frustrating, because there's so many people, who have put in a lot of legwork into this story over not just over years. And it really does seem, like I said, that there's some serious concerning elements of genuine election interference, pay for play access, things like that shouldn't be going on in our country that actually did transpire. Right? It's not some anonymous source anymore saying that, yeah, this happened. Like I said, there are articles out there that indicate that this actually did transpire, and it's just not really being taken seriously, right? It's just like everything else, it dies before it gets to committee and things like that. So, I mean, my feeling, to get to the bottom of it again, is that based on the earliest stories, because stories get convoluted over the years too. So that's why I wanted to go back to the first things that I could find on that donation. And everything that I've seen has got Alexander Trudeau's paw prints, his greasy little paw prints are all over it. Back in 2014, when the deal was struck. So I think he needs to testify as to, how the Trudeau Foundation became involved in this donation. And I think that Guy Lefebvre does as well, because his own university put a readout saying that he negotiated the donation. So, let's go back to him, because he said that he did it, right?
Absolutely. So we need an investigation. I mean, what did you make of the arrests in the United States? As the U.S. Justice Department arrested two men on charges that they helped establish the secret police outpost in New York City. We have them in Canada. There's also a Canadian connection to that story. In fact, Fife and Chase did a story on that in the Globe and Mail today. But the secret Chinese police outpost revealed in New York, two men arrested. So apparently they have a lot less tolerance for Chinese cop shops in America. Even a blue state like New York thinks it's a bridge too far over there. Why are they getting away with it in this country when in the United States, the cops at least appear to be doing their job and arresting these guys?
Yeah, well, I think, they're taking a lot more seriously down in the States and they moved really, really quickly. So a lot of these things go back to that same province that, seems to set up those hometown associations. So, I mean, like I said, there's statements going back, almost a decade back saying that, some of these stations are being set up in Canada. There was 4 set up. John McCallum, who, was tight with the Liberal Party and advised them, and also became Chinese ambassador. He was at the opening of some of these earliest stations with some of these characters that I pointed out with Vincent Kay and um, the consul general. So these same characters were involved in setting up those stations way back when, and it looked like it started at about 2016. And John McCallum was present at those openings. So it kind of looks like they set up, these main stations. And then they sort of branched out, and these characters, Wei Changyi and Wen Guoning, set up more and more of these associations, and sort of the influence sort of grew out from there. And a lot of them got very, very involved in our politicians. And, I'm not going to say that they don't do good work. They do community work and things like that. But they also obviously are, very, very interested in connecting with our politicians and things like that. And, getting, people voting for the people that, they want to see put into office. And a lot of times they're people who have really soft China policies. And these are people these aren't just everyday citizens. Like some of these guys have met with Xi Jinping in China, right? Like it's not like Joe Blow, I'm going to go set up a nonprofit in Canada. Like you're actually meeting with Xi Jinping, right?
Right.
So, I mean, yeah, they are influenced, right? And so anyway, but it's really, really hard, I think, to investigate these because I don't know. Well, I mean, the RCMP, what did they say? They said that they were driving by and disrupting them. Like, I mean, what does that even mean?
It doesn't mean anything.
It's
Let's
like,
Andy Lee joining us on Saga 960 on the Mark Petroner Show. Here's your tweet. It's not odd at all because our liberal politicians met with members who run one of the alleged illegal Chinese police stations now under investigation. But the cops don't seem to be laying any arrests like they did in the United States. It makes investigating them, well, inconvenient to say the least. Yeah, so I suppose if you start arresting people associated with these Chinese police stations, and all of a sudden, as you point out, these liaisons between those Chinese police stations and members of the Trudeau government come out, it's it's pretty embarrassing for those guys. I mean, is that why there hasn't been any arrests yet? Because the RCMP doesn't want to embarrass Prime Minister Blackface?
well, I can't say, like I said, I think that it's definitely a technicality because, like I said, we've had high level politicians going right up to the top of our food chain, our prime minister, who have been involved in these, these so-called police stations, and they've connected with the people who run them, and the people who have helped them, certain MPs campaign and things like that, and drummed up support for them. So it does become very, very awkward for them to approach when they've been, involved in them intimately as politicians. So yeah, it's, and that's the ugly reality. And, that's just how it is. I mean, you don't, that's not speculative. I mean, the RCMP said that they were investigating this station and Justin Trudeau's face is plastered on a meeting with them on their Facebook, right? It's awkward.
Yeah.
It's pretty awkward. So, I think that there is an element, and that's why, we don't hear the Liberal Party sort of going after them, as strongly as they should have, because they know that they're going to be connected to them, and those ties will have to be investigated as well. So yeah, and I mean, again, I think the problem is, again, we've got such lax laws, really, really lax election laws and things like that in our country. We haven't done a very good job of safeguarding, the integrity of our elections, even though the Liberal Party would have you think that they're ironclad. And we don't have a foreign agent registry and things like that. And so we've created this sort of gray zone where it's obvious that we do have external influence and foreign influence, but it's also not cut and dry as to where, it's legal or illegal.
Yeah.
And so where we're having trouble with actually prosecuting people and things like that, because we've got this sort of leeway zone where we've allowed this behavior to go on, not just to go on, but to foster and grow. And it's been nurtured by our politicians because it's been beneficial to them. I mean, they've said, hey,
Right.
thanks for helping me win the election. Like,
That's exactly right. But that guy was with the PCs, so anyway, okay, so we've got some questions related to some of the things you've been saying. Are you going to do a story about Fox News settlement for 800 million? Probably not, because you aren't a journalist. Yeah, okay, here we go. Fox News settles blockbuster defamation. So this is NPR in the United States spiking the football after being booted off Twitter. Well, actually, they left on their own. Yeah, so for a certain company, they're going to have to. They're on the hook for $787 million. 500. Fox News and its parent company Fox Corp have struck a deal averting a trial in the blockbuster defamation suit. So there you go, we did it. You happy? What else you got? Giver, whatever that means. Okay, now this is the more important comment here. Okay, so the Jamaicans often roll their blunts with tobacco too, which I found weird. Okay, well, I mean, you're going to spend $160,000 on weed in Jamaica for yourself and for your entire staff and all the security staff, and they're using tobacco. I mean, well, you don't know anything about weed either, so maybe we don't know what we're talking about on the Jamaican ganja. If we get any more comments, what does this guy says? He says the Jamaicans often roll their blunts with tobacco too, which I found weird. And then finally, thank you for all you do, Andy Lee. I concur with that one. So at least you got. So you may not be a journalist, according to the other guy, but
I'm trying.
I think you are.
There's so many of us who are trying really, really hard to get to the bottom of this and to get it taken seriously. And yeah, like I said, there's so much evidence out there that does point to, some of these.
Let me ask you this opinion. I just would really. Did Justin Trudeau collude with the Chinese, or did he just kind of not do anything? Where are you at with that debate? I think he colluded. I think he knew what was going on. We knew that he was briefed, according to the Sam Cooper story, 5 times, right? There were 5 official briefings, and there were unofficial briefings in which he was also told about what was going on. But he lied at one point, saying, I didn't know anything about that. I wasn't briefed on this. So to me, that lie goes a long way towards implicating him as having actually colluded with the Chinese. Where are you on that?
Yeah, I mean, collusion is it's a very strong term, I think, for what went on. I do think that Justin Trudeau realized who he was getting into bed with, and he was hoping for a reciprocal, relationship with them. Like I said, you didn't just meet up with these people and hope to get nothing back from it and wine and dine them and meet them in Beijing and meet them in Leech Lake and things like that. But again, during that time, a lot of time that this goes back to was when he was trying to broker a free trade agreement with China. And, I really do think that he wanted that to be his legacy. He wanted to leave a legacy like his father. His father was famous for forging ties with China. And I think that he wanted to leave something lasting like that. And I believe that he was naive enough to think that it should take the form of a free trade agreement with the country. And I think that he made certain concessions and certain decisions, hoping to forward that. But unfortunately, it ended up having disastrous results in that we ended up having, a lot of people, make some investments and things like that ended up being very bad for Canadians that we let pass by, right? Real estate investments, investments like Anbang. I pointed out, somebody that, he hung out with, Edward Gong, he was charged with defrauding investors of $202 million. So these were the kind of people that Justin Trudeau cozied up with. And I do think he was aware of who he was getting into bed with. But, he didn't look at it too hard because they were helping, curry favor for him. and, helping him achieve his objective, which was to get a free trade deal with China. And of course, that all fell apart when our Michaels were kidnapped, right? And that sort of was the end of that deal. And we never heard of it after that, So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Is he their useful idiot? Or is he aware of what he's doing? I mean, I think there's a little bit more. I don't think he's, a bright enough guy to be sort of masterminding this,
Oh,
this.
listen, I agree with you there. I mean, I'm not saying he's a mastermind, but I think when the Chinese said, look, we want you to win, we're rigging a few seats. And so, just sit back and enjoy, but you owe us.
Well,
So, I mean, what better way to curry favor from a prime minister than by helping him win an election, right?
Well, I mean, like I said, he's gone to a lot of these events, right? Like I talked about the one with Edward Gong, and he's there and he's like counting down to New Year. And I mean, this is a high level criminal. So I do think that he was aware that he was colluding with maybe some people who had some sketchy backgrounds and things like that. But he was willing to turn a blind eye because, they were giving him a lot of coverage, and you wouldn't find that coverage in Western media. You had to find it in foreign language media. But you could find it on, Edward Gong's TV. His media channel was CNTV. So, and that would put out message to millions of Canadians, Chinese Canadians, and things like that who would watch it. And CCTV, which is Chinese official state media, also featured Justin Trudeau a lot of the times. Their media channel,
Yeah.
so he broadcast all over China.
He's real popular over there.
So he did, get a lot back from this relationship. And, was extremely successful in winning over sort of that, that Chinese community and things like that. They really did think that he was their guy.
Well, yeah, it didn't hurt that the Chi-Coms were pressuring people who would have otherwise voted conservative to stay home, scared the daylights out of people, saying, "Oh, by the way, we know where your family lives back in wherever, Shanghai. I wonder how they're doing. Maybe we'll look into them." I got to ask you though, because Stephen Harper now has come out and endorsed Danielle Smith. Now you're in Alberta. They're in a heated campaign over there, and Danielle Smith is trying to stay the premier of that province, while Rachel Notley, leader of the NDP, she's putting up her fight. And Stephen Harper has come out and said, don't vote for Rachel. She sucks. Let's listen.
Alberta's been through some tough years since 2015, but the economy is finally hitting its stride again, and employment is booming. Yet that could all be derailed if the Notley NDP wins. We've seen what they've done before: job killing, tax hiking, anti-energy policies leading to mass layoffs, business closures, and recession. It took years to recover from the last NDP government. We can't risk going backwards again. Vote for Alberta. Vote Conservative.
Do you find it odd that he never mentioned Danielle Smith by name? Am I reading something in there that's not there? To me, it's say, vote for Danielle Smith and the UCP, the United Conservative Party of Alberta.
Well, no, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, a lot of people, when they go to vote, and this is kind of wild. This is something that I learned when I was campaigning, is they didn't actually know who their candidate was, or who was running the show, or who was the head of the party and things like that. So sometimes it's okay to say, yeah, you just look for the Conservative, whoever that may be on your ballot. I think that's okay. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a huge endorsement to get Stephen Harper behind you, and a fellow Albertan, obviously amazing, former prime minister of ours. So yeah, massive gun she's got in her corner.
Do you like the white hair?
I do. I do.
Yeah, I think it's
becoming.
It's
I'm fine with it. I'd rather that than Justin Trudeau's kind of wild pepper gray, disheveled, and he had that weird Dumb and Dumber haircut for a while.
Gotta have appropriate in his case.
Right. So yeah, no, I'm fine with it. Yeah, it's a serious look for a serious prime minister, and nobody can say that he wasn't that. So yeah, massive endorsement for Smith, and good for her.
Was that going to convince anybody who would have otherwise not voted for her?
No, it'll make people who didn't like her not like her even more, though.
Oh, so it could backfire.
No, I mean they
It
would
could backfire.
be voting for
Wow,
her,
that deserves
but
that deserves a headline.
I think
Andy dunks on Harper.
no, I just think, a lot of people think that, Stephen Harper is, the devil's incarnate and things like that. They thought he was a very, very evil man. And so, if they already didn't like Danielle Smith, they're going to be like, okay, this is like, him endorsing, this is like a match made in hell, right?
So you
Like,
okay? So you think it could
I don't
backfire?
think I don't think
Look. I think if you're going to endorse somebody, name the person. I mean,
yeah, sure. I
No.
mean, that's
name the person. Say, I like Danielle Smith. Vote for her.
yeah.
But you know what it was? I think maybe he's upset by the fact that the previous premier got his ass kicked out of the party. Kenny, is that possible?
It's possible.
And then she was there waiting in the wings. Andy Lee, thank you so much. Go
I
ahead,
think-
finish your thought.
No, maybe it will pull people over to Danielle Smith, because a lot of people are, more aware of federal politics than they are of provincial politics, in all seriousness. So maybe, this linkage between federal politics and provincial politics will pull people over to Danielle Smith. And
Okay, well that needs a new headline then. All right, Andy likes
I love
Harper
Harper.
after
I've
all.
always loved him. Like I said, I thought he was a very serious.
Whoa, love.
I thought
Okay.
he was a very serious prime minister who did, some very serious good things for this country. So, and sorely missed, that kind of leadership, as opposed to, the Justin Trudeau Gong Show that, has him making headlines for doing something awful almost weekly now.
Okay.
Even his staunchest supporters are
Who's?
Justin Trudeau's staunchest supporters are, waking
As
up.
a cult. No, he's leader of the cult. Andy,
No, I mean, we've seen Andrew Coyne really, really flip around and be like, what's going on? And I mean, Andrew Coyne,
well, he's torn. I mean, he secretly, I think, loves Trudeau, but unfortunately, Trudeau keeps showing what a scumbag he is. And so Coyne, where do I go? What do I do? Listen, thank you so much. I appreciate this.
Yeah, no problem. So yeah, I did hear Pierre Poilievre put some calls out in the House of Commons to bring up Alexandre Trudeau in front of committee.
Oh, good. Well, you're ahead of the curve as always.
So yeah, so hopefully, like I said, I'm gonna try to get some traction behind that, because there's still a lot that we don't know, but we do know that the Trudeau's paw prints were all over it in the very, very early days. So
Trudeau's paw prints. Okay. Yeah. All right. Fantastic. Thank you, Andy Lee. All right.
Take care, Mark.
See ya. Let's take a break. Back with more on News Talk Saga 960 and the Mark Petronas Show after this.